Hi, my name's Phil. I like to come about politics, and in this video I'd like to pick up on the latest on the economic contributions of migrants in the UK. See, every time I explain that migrants contribute more to the economy than British-born adults, I get incredulous responses because it's very much the opposite of what they're being told in the media. Prove it, they say. Not unreasonably. Fair enough, I say, and I respond. So shall we take a look at the latest proof? Newly published today by the Migration Advisory Committee. But first, for daily political commentary, please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out. So, given that the vast majority of long-term migrants in Britain are here to work, because despite what Neanderthal claims, you don't actually get benefits or free NHS treatment if you don't. And again, people who think, oh no, you do. It's like, no, why do you think if ever you have to access benefits, you need your national insurance number? And with the NHS, you need your NHS number. You know, so it's basic common sense that immigrants are going to contribute more and take out less than a British citizen. After all, if they're working, they're not only contributing to GDP, but they're paying the highest rate of tax. See, a salaried worker pays a higher rate of tax than either a business owner or a pensioner on the same income. And a migrant pays even more because they pay the NHS surcharge on top of all of the taxes that British citizens pay as well. So migrants pay more tax than a British citizen earning the same money. But because they're of working age, and actually most of them are of like prime working age, and the NHS is mostly used by the very young and the elderly, they also need less in terms of healthcare. Also, because they've been skilled up by a different country, we saved on education costs. And despite the line Reform UK are trying to take, British-born people commit crimes, including serious crimes, at a higher rate than foreign-born people in Britain. So on average, they also cost less in terms of policing and justice systems. Rupert Lowe of Reform UK is currently trying to say, oh, you should give me this information. I want this information to prove that migrants commit more crime. And it's like the information saying they don't. Says, no, I don't want that information. I want you to do a different analysis. It's like, mate, whatever analysis we do is going to come out with the same results, right? So he's trying to pretend that the Home Office refuses to do a particular type of analysis, which he's free to do himself. The data's all public. Because the results aren't saying what he wants it to. But anyway, all of this is empirical thinking. And because it's the polar opposite of what much of the mainstream media tells people, a lot of folk are understandably sceptical about my arguments. I mean, after all, you know, why should you believe me in a hoodie, sat in front of a camera in a shed, over the established media? So we need cold hard data. And we get this from the Migration Advisory Committee, and their latest report, happily, has just been published today. So what does it say? Well, for those coming into the country on a skilled worker visa, which is the majority of immigrants getting the right to live in the UK these days, they contribute an average of £16,300 a year to our economy. That's a net contribution. So that's everything they pay in minus everything that they would take out. That's net, right? So what does the average British-born adult contribute? £800. That's a bit of a difference. That is a bit of a difference. The average British-born adult, so that excludes children, provides a net contribution to the UK economy of £800 compared to an immigrant on a skilled worker visa, which is 62% of all immigrants, who contribute £16,300 net. Now, some people who are mathematically minded will say, yeah, sure, Phil, but a lot of those British-born adults will be retired or otherwise economically inactive. And yes, that's absolutely right. There are figures for British-born adult workers, which I'm going to get onto. But I first want to point out that just because someone isn't economically active doesn't mean we can remove them, because it's not like they don't cost anything. It's not even like they cost less. In fact, if you're retired, you cost more in public services than a worker. Older people are more likely to need health or social care, or both, which carries a hefty price tag. That cost has to be borne by someone, and that someone tends to be workers contributing to the Treasury. Those who are economically active, in other words. And when we artificially restrict access to skilled work visas for immigrants, we are reducing net contribution to the economy of £16,300 per person. You know, you do that. You reduce the number of skilled worker visa just artificially that you award by 100,000. You've just cost us over £1.5 billion. And we could, people will say, well, we could just get British people to do the same jobs. It's fine. Well, I was coming to that. See, first of all, no, we can't. We don't have enough people of working age to fill all the vacancies we have in the country. So even if you could persuade that rich banker who retired in their 50s to go and play golf, if you could somehow persuade them to go and work in a care home, right? Even then, we do not have enough people to do all the jobs. Like, even if we had literally zero unemployment, not a single person unemployed, we'd still have lots of jobs going unfilled. That is productivity not being carried out, meaning the country makes less, meaning lower tax receipts, meaning less spent on public services. Aha, they will say, but we'll also have fewer immigrants using those public services. No. As we've just shown, the net contribution of a skilled immigrant is £16,300 to the £800 contribution of a British adult. And yes, that's only 62% of immigrants. Even if we said the other 38% contributed nothing, which isn't true, by the way, but even if it were true, that would still be an overall net contribution from all immigrants of an average of £10,000 per person net against £800 for Brits. No matter what the Daily Mail level assumptions are you make about immigration, there is no way of throttling immigration numbers that doesn't harm the economy and public services. But even comparing immigrant workers with British workers is uncomfortable for the anti-immigration crowd. You probably expect me to say, okay, but you're not really comparing immigrants with the average adult. You're really comparing workers with the average adult, right? No. The report found that the net contribution for British-born workers, skilled workers, £14,400. So even when comparing workers, immigrants make a net contribution of almost £2,000 more than the equivalent British-born worker. And that is, of course, because a higher proportion of migrant workers has advanced skills compared to British workers. British workers are doing jobs which range from everything from the very unskilled, can train you in an hour to do it, to the highly skilled needing years of specialised training. But migrant workers are mostly loaded into the skilled work. Yes, there are some immigrants doing unskilled work, nowhere near as many as the Tories and Tory press would have you believe. The facts speak for themselves. And there are other figures which put it even more starkly. Because we've just talked about individuals here. What about households? Surely that's what really matters, households. Because not all immigrants are skilled workers. Some may have dependents who may or may not be in skilled work. Some dependents are in skilled work themselves, some are not. Some may be in low paid work. Some may be children, for example. So let's look at households. Okay, so the immigrant household has a net positive impact of £12,000. The equivalent UK household has a net negative impact of £4,400. Yes, the typical British-born household is net negative to the economy. In other words, if we only had British-born households, we have no economy. Our economy doesn't just benefit from skilled worker immigration. We are dependent upon it. This is why Labour refused to set a target for immigration numbers. The only type of person who would do so is either a liar, an imbecile, or someone who wants to weaken the UK. The Tories, for example, I'm sure they'll set a target for the next election. And the next time they form a government, they'll have that target. They won't meet it because they'll know that the economy will disappear. With Boris Johnson, we had someone who was prepared to do anything. He introduced Brexit. He was going to reduce immigration. Immigration went up 4 times as high. Why? Because he knew that to do otherwise would destroy the economy. Now, this is not to say that certain types of immigration shouldn't be looked at. In fact, I've argued in the past, what we should do is not have one overall net migration figure. We should break immigration figures down by type in order to distinguish between them. And then if people want to look at certain types as not being all that useful to us than others, then okay. But it is the stuff of madness to artificially constrain the types of immigration which are overwhelmingly helping to support our society. Skilled workers make a huge contribution, not just culturally, but economically. Fact. Most migrants are not allowed free access to public services and have no access to benefits except a small niche number of situations. Like, for example, those claiming asylum. And even then, it's only so many of them. It's not automatically the case that if you're claiming asylum, you get benefits. That's why there are so many people claiming asylum that are homeless. The fact that asylum is costing so much these days is because the Conservatives stopped processing claims, so that relatively small percentage of people getting benefits went up very high. The cost was low. You would never have noticed it, and it will be again once Labour have worked through the backlog. So any claims you hear of migrants getting benefits and free NHS care are mostly lies. And anyone who's either had NHS care, where you have to provide your NHS number, or has access benefits, where you have to provide your nationality and national insurance number, should know that they're lies. And half of all those skilled worker visas are for health, and literally half of them are for the health and social care sector. So clumsily trying to reduce numbers means longer waits for treatment or care. So there you are. The latest hot off the press proof that immigration is overwhelmingly positive for the UK. And where there are small, isolated issues, people should distinguish between different forms of immigration, not lump them all together just because the politicians and media do. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for listening, and until next time, I'll see you later.